most people on planet Earth are never going to touch one Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've reached that point where it kind of has become out of reach from the average person.
It's almost a luxury investment.
Yeah.
In 2024, Michael Saylor alone bought $42 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Also, there's another project called Sonic SBM on Solana, which have taken the ticker Sonic, and so it's really confusing. People are conflating the two. I've seen it on Twitter already. If you type in Sonic on these exchanges, obviously you're going to buy the wrong coin.
So you're immediately engaging all of these other communities and kind of trying to onboard them into the Sonic ecosystem.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the third episode of Exit Liquidity brought to you by DeFi Daddy, myself, and of course DeFi Senpai. Today is January 10th, 2025. How are we doing, Senpai?
Yeah, Bitcoin is currently at 94K. We bottomed out yesterday, it looks like, at around 90K, and we've had an update, which is surprising given that the S&P and the Nasdaq were both down, and Fridays are usually a risk-off day. So that's very interesting, and I'm hoping, going into inauguration week, that the market can continue to rally and show some strength.
My gut instinct, January 20th, the day Donald Trump comes in power, the day Gary Gensler gets kicked out, it's probably going to be a sell the news event.
Fair enough,
I feel like that's a pretty fair expectation. We've been buying the rumor, we've been speculating on the golden bull run, but I think by the time January 20th rolls around, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a red day.
Yeah.
It would be fitting. Crypto
Yeah.
does a really good job of inflicting as much pain in its participants as possible.
Well, you can say it's already priced in.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking forward into the rest of Q1, second half of January, February, March, and April, nothing has really changed. The outlook is still aggressively bullish. We're kind of positioned how we need to be, and now we just have with a hope and a prayer that it plays out how we want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. We really have to hold on to that 90K level on Bitcoin because it is just air underneath it, all the way down to 74K.
Absolute vapor market structure between 74K and 90. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of like scam wick to like 88.
Yeah.
Get the final liquidations out of it. The market makers see everyone's stop loss. Turbo nuke the stop losses. Buy Arthur Hayes a new Ferrari, and then straight to Valhalla.
88K is like the absolute last stop. Like, because below that, it is truly nothing.
Below that is just pain. From, I think 74K until the current price is about a 25% markdown in Bitcoin, which of course would mean you're probably looking at 50% or more in alts.
Pretty much erasing all the gains from the start of the bull run if that happens.
It would probably send quite a few projects below their TGE price. For example, I was looking at Celestia.
Yeah.
Celestia is at like $4.50.
Yeah, Celestia is like a VC project through and through, though. So you have this massive dumping of just VC bags. Those guys are still up 1,000%.
Yeah, they're still up 1,000%. It would just be like bear market level mentality in the Celestia ecosystem if it were to fall below the TGE price. I think that would really, there's a couple projects kind of in that gray area where the narrative hasn't caught on, the token hasn't appreciated. And I think one of the most important things about this bull run is the pumps have been very concentrated. Specific niches, specific sectors have done very, very well, while the rest of the market is just kind of watching them.
Yeah, I would say that this cycle has been different in that, rotating into what's trending at the time has really paid off. Whereas before, it was like you kind of spread out and make a portfolio and you can just get the market return. But this time, I feel like, having a more concentrated portfolio and really like understanding what's trending has, paid huge dividends for people who are like really got their finger on the pulse.
I agree. I think this bull run is fundamentally different because in 2021, like, you were told to stay inside, you were given a stimmy check to go gamble it, and it was a very frothy environment from like the monetary economic context. While this time around, retail doesn't have as much money, there is institutional capital flowing in, and so it's kind of that dichotomy is, do you want to be diversified into your basket, like maybe hold a little bit of DePIN, a little bit of AI, some modular picks, some meme coins, or do you want to play what's hot and kind of spin the wheel of fortune in the crypto economy?
Would you say it's been more difficult to make money this cycle then?
I would say for the layman investor that is relatively unsophisticated in the crypto market, this bull market has been way more painful than 2021. To me, were you around in 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's when I got in.
This feels like the ICO era.
It does. Yeah.
I would say like the 2016, 2017 run feels way more similar to the current context of what's going on. like the first run, 2016, 2017, feels similar to now, while 2021 is kind of its own dogma, its own its own context of helicopter money. Everything goes up in value.
Yeah. And in 2021, like, Bitcoin really wasn't the play, whereas in 2017, we still had that dynamic of all of the onboarding. You had to buy Bitcoin first. That was with the coin that everyone purchased first, and then you're on these exchanges where you could sell your Bitcoin, because a lot of these coins like XRP were Bitcoin backed pairs. You'd move it into altcoins because you'd see these crazy pumps. We're kind of like back in that sort of dynamic where Bitcoin is leading the market, and then you need Bitcoin dominance to fall, and that's when the altcoins kind of pick up. But when Bitcoin's like really pumping, you're not necessarily guaranteed that your altcoins are gonna move up in value as well.
Agreed. I think one of the most important things that I've kind of been reflecting on is most of social media, whether you're talking about Twitter or TikTok, doesn't seem to own Bitcoin. Have you caught on to this?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's I think, like I said last time, people are seriously underexposed, and that's why you see a 5% move down in Bitcoin, and people are yelling at the top of their lungs like it's all over.
Like, the sentiment is so bad over the past couple of days when we had this drawdown from 100K down to 90K. And it's like, I'm slowly coming to the conclusion that people like Bitcoin, but they don't fucking own it.
Mm-hmm.
And that dichotomy is super interesting because everyone is looking for that beta trade. They want to capitalize off the market momentum, but they don't want to own Bitcoin because they're not going to get a high enough return. But when you look at where the money is coming to actually push this market up, it's traditional finance. They can buy Bitcoin, they can buy Ethereum, but haven't really shown that interest. And it's kind of like, it seems almost a failure to adapt to the current market conditions.
Totally. Yeah.
People don't want to put Bitcoin in their portfolio because it's like, oh, I'll only get a 2x. And it's like, okay, well, do you want a 2x or do you want a minus 50% alt bag?
Yeah.
Because you motherfucker are going to have to pick eventually.
Well, I mean, you can imagine like the class of 2021, and from their perspective, they're used to Bitcoin just lagging the rest of the market. So it makes sense for them not to invest in it. And I feel like they've had that kind of mindset, and they just weren't able to adapt to like recognize how the market is going to change with the ETFs.
I agree. It's kind of this concept of hyper Bitcoinization, right? We've seen it at the corporate level with MicroStrategy. We're seeing it at the national level with, of course, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And I think the market, specifically retail, is not really recognizing this trend of hyper Bitcoinization, the future reserve asset of planet Earth, because they're too busy chasing 1,000 X's on pump.fun. They want to spin that flywheel of dopamine when realistically all they have to do is not lose their money to succeed.
Yeah. Also, on a side note, like, there is something to be said about the numbers bias and just having like a ton of these coins. Like the amount of times we've seen on TikTok someone being like, I want to have 1 million of these, shit coins versus 0.1 of a Bitcoin. And I would almost like suggest to the Bitcoin community, if they started like pricing Bitcoin in like 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, like I wonder if people would start accumulating it again.
Yeah, or if they started pricing one Satoshi as X amount of US dollar, I think that would be a really compelling tactic from the crypto community to make it seem more approachable, because like you said, most people they don't want to say they own 0.1 Bitcoin. They'd way rather say they own 700 million Satoshis.
Yeah, it'd be like the equivalent of like a stock split.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, talking back to the holidays, I was talking to my brother-in-law, and this is particularly compelling because the standard of what owning Bitcoin means is slowly decreasing. He was like, yeah, one of my buddies owns 0.2 Bitcoin. And it was like, kind of like flaunting or like proud of it.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me realize most people on planet Earth are never going to touch one Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've reached that point where it kind of has become out of reach from the average person.
It's almost a luxury investment.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with that unit bias of talking about 1 or 0.5. It's very much becoming something that most people are getting priced out of, owning those whole numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd really say like that's been the biggest difference this cycle. Because like last cycle is like, I mean, there's a lot of times there's trading at like 20K, 40K. The average person in the US or Canada could still afford that if they saved up and like really worked hard towards it. But now we're at like 100K. Like that's, for a lot of people, that's completely out of reach.
And I mean, if we're talking about the Canadian dollar in that context, 100K Bitcoin, that's 140K CAD.
Yeah.
That is over 3 times the median yearly salary of a Canadian.
Yikes.
Right? Like statistically, they're not going to be able to save up for 3 years to buy Bitcoin at its current price. let alone where it'll go in the future.
Yeah. The Canadian dollar is getting absolutely pounded.
Murdered, bro. It is getting back shots.
It was so, when Bitcoin hit a new all-time high in the Canadian dollar, like, no one even realized it.
Right? And like, there's even people in my Discord that are from Canada, and they're like, wow, Bitcoin's at 145,000 Canadian. And I'm like, stop pricing things in Canadian dollar. Stop doing it. Everything's in the US dollar. The CAD doesn't matter. Yeah. As a Canadian, I'm a USD maxi.
Basically, yeah. I mean, we've actually been saved by having like a decent amount of our investments in crypto because it is priced basically in the US dollar.
Exactly. It's kind of like a currency hedge without even really realizing it. So I guess moving on from that, the next thing we wanted to talk about, kind of talking about the US dollar, is the US government.
Yes.
They recently got approved from the DOJ to start the process of selling, I think it's like 69,000 Bitcoin.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of fear, uncertainty circulating on social media. Is it going to push the price lower? What are the mechanics of selling? What does this mean for the market?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope that when Trump does come in, that he immediately puts a stop to that, because one of his biggest campaign promises was the Bitcoin reserve. And as part of that, they said they were not going to sell any of the Bitcoin they held in reserve, and we're going to start accumulating something like 50,000 Bitcoin a year.
200,000.
200,000 Bitcoin a year.
200K a year
expensive.
to a 1 mil limit. To up to a 1 mil total reserve limit.
Yeah, so to like renege on that right away and to start like dumping the Bitcoin they hold, I think he'd lose a lot of his faithfuls, I'd say.
I think it's because they got approved yesterday.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's a spiteful move from the existing administration. Yeah. I think it's a slam the door on your way out. Uh-huh. You know, when you're mad at your parents and you fucking slam the door when you were a kid. I think it's that kind of move because obviously the current administration is aware of the incoming administration's intent to adopt and spread this technology outwards. And so it seems like a very facetious attempt to kind of create that hostile relationship between the outgoing and the incoming party's intentions with this digital gold. And so there's going to be 69,000 Bitcoin that go up for auction. But if the US government wants to buy 200,000 during the first year, that offsets it pretty significantly.
Yeah, it seems like this really is just like a spiteful move from the Biden administration on his way out.
Exactly, right? And so one thing that I do want to highlight is that 70,000, 69,000-ish number of Bitcoin is currently worth about $7 billion. So I'll run you through some numbers. In 2024, Michael Saylor alone bought $42 billion worth of Bitcoin. So like comparatively, it's not an insignificant amount.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, it is buy pressure that could be offset. Daily spot trading for Bitcoin is about $40 billion a day.
Okay.
So the market is liquid enough to absorb it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
BlackRock alone owns $37 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The BlackRock ETF came out a year ago today. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw on the news. But...
Yeah. Happy ETF day.
Yeah, it's like a birthday in its own, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's the hallmark celebration of the opportunity to dump on traditional finance people.
So what you're saying is that like a lot of it could just be, FUD. That it's kind of just like a headline because it really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things.
It's not an insignificant amount, but in the grand scheme of things, I think the market could absorb it.
Yeah.
And the last piece of nuance here is that in order to maximize extracted value, that Bitcoin is auctioned. It's not like they're going to load it into Coinbase Pro, set the slider to 100% and market sell that shit. There is going to be an auctioning process, which is more or less OTC.
Yeah.
And so did the market overreact? Personally, I think so, because there's a lot of nuance there in terms of how much is that Bitcoin actually worth in dollars relative to not necessarily guaranteed buy pressure, but past buy pressure. And there's nuance also in the mechanism of selling.
Yeah.
And so did the market overreact? Probably. Is it an opportunity? Probably. Are you going to have the conviction to buy the dip? Probably not. But that's why you listen to Exit Liquidity.
I did see like a really cool infographic. I didn't realize that China also has 190,000 Bitcoin. It's like almost identical to the amount that the US government has. And I was like, this is kind of like an arms race in its own, like a financial arms race. It's like, maybe, they've really put a lot of thought into this. And it's like, well, if you're going to have that much, I'm going to have this much too.
It's definitely, when you look at Bitcoin as a reserve asset kind of on the multinational level, there is very much a first mover's advantage present. Because I think it is very short-sighted to say that the US government will adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, or at least they've said they are going to, and failing to realize that other countries won't do the same.
Yeah.
Because the second the US does it, the most robust capital market on planet Earth adopts a Bitcoin standard. Any country that doesn't have that in their repertoire of centrally planned assets is immediately failing to meet the gold standard.
Yeah.
Right? So we know what's coming. We know there's a Bitcoin standard coming, fingers crossed, assuming Donald Trump isn't grifting.
Yeah.
Which actually is a pretty big if, I will
Yeah,
admit.
I know,
The
right?
poly market odds for the US establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve, the last time I looked, was below 40%.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's not great.
I think there are some things in the bill that do need to be reiterated. Like, we love showing the fact that, yeah, they're going to buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year, but, like, realistically, like, that's a lot of money to be printing. Like, that's not coming from taxpayers. Like, it's...
I mean, it would come from Doge, the government savings,
Yeah.
right?
I
Axing the
guess.
regulation,
Yeah.
firing all the lazy government workers that don't add net value.
I feel like a lot of it would come from just printing, though.
Yeah, a lot of it definitely would. They would definitely just start slinging bonds through the treasury like
Yeah,
nobody's business.
They just become like MicroStrategy.
Yeah. Hey, we're selling convertible bonds. So end of the day, Bitcoin strategic reserve. Personally, I'm biased towards it happening. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is known for pandering, for grifting to select crowds to get into specifically powerful positions. Anything can happen in 2025. Cautiously bullish, the Bitcoin strategic reserve will come to fruition. So I guess moving on to a new trend kind of emerging on-chain, coming out of the trenches, DeFi. DeFAI, the integration of decentralized finance and artificial intelligence, is a blossoming new narrative. It recently got added as a new sector on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, kind of gaining some traction. Masari, the data analytics firm, has added a dashboard for it as well. What are your thoughts on this new and emerging sector?
I think it's game changing. Like, seeing what Daniel Sesta has done with Hey Anon, some of the demonstrations have really blown my mind, and it's like opened up so many opportunities for, you know, unique market inefficiencies, which if you're really paying attention, you'll be able to take advantage of. In particular, I think that it's gonna be really useful for like airdrop farming, which is something that I participate in a lot. Like, just imagine you'd be able to tell this bot, okay, create 100 wallets and then withdraw like 0.1 ETH into each one of them, do like 10 transactions, and then, you know, move all that ETH back into like a centralized exchange. You'll be able to get that done instantly. Whereas, you know, before, when I was trying to farm these airdrops, that would take me like, multiple days to get that sort of work done.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for airdrop farming, or for just kind of abstracting the pain of DeFi away. Abstracting is a big buzzword these days, but kind of what it means is removing the pain points, removing the difficulties, the nuance to using these applications. And just to give you an example, so using Hey Anon or other decentralized finance, artificial intelligence agent technologies, that's a lot of buzzwords, would be something like you give it a prompt. I want you to bridge 1,000 USDT from ETH to base, and I want you to find the highest yield. And it immediately removes so much pain. The bridging steps, even getting phished by a scam protocol like Uniswap or something like that, because it has strict tooling. And so I think that idea of abstracting, removing the pain is a very important narrative, because that's going to be how we actually bring these really powerful tools of decentralized finance into the hands of unsophisticated users.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
It's like the next kind of vertical integration of artificial intelligence is, we have these cool tools in decentralized finance. How can we use AI to make them more accessible?
Yeah.
So decentralized finance, artificial intelligence, DeFi, as it's kind of being coined on Twitter right now, a very new and emerging sector. We're very bullish on Hey Anon, which we will talk in a moment, but there's kind of two other projects that we wanted to briefly touch on.
Yeah, Griffin are like the project leading the way in this new DeFi sector. I think they have a market cap of around 400 million. It's similar to Hey Anon, but doesn't have the strict tooling that they have. So you can just like give this thing a prompt, and it'll basically, I guess, use ChatGPT to kind of analyze what you're saying, and can do actions on the internet like doing liquidity farming.
Yeah, my understanding is that it can do staking and like very simple decentralized finance interactions, but it's not capable of the more complex and orchestrated tasks like yield farming or bridging or even creating tokens that we've seen from other products. There's another one called Wayfinder. Wayfinder is like the epitome of venture capital entering the ecosystem. I think Senpai said before the stream they recently fundraised at like $1 billion.
Yeah, they have it was like $1 billion FDV was their last round.
Oh my God. For your reference, this product is not ready for public use. They don't have a token yet. And so it's kind of interesting seeing the grassroots organizations like Griffin, like Hey Anon, hit the market with a product faster than the venture capitalists.
Yeah, speed really is everything in crypto. Like even if it's like not quite ready to push out, just like getting it out there and being first, like is
the first mover's advantage in crypto is huge. Like CJ said, even if the product isn't fully ready yet, showing the community that it's in development, showing the community what you built so far goes a long way, especially when there is a token that can be speculated on.
Yeah. And it's nice that some of these other projects didn't take like huge VC money. Because I mean, like, Wayfinder coming out at a 1 billion FDV, you got to imagine, like, that's a lot of expectations. And if you buy that token, there's going to be a lot of sell pressure from just VCs trying to capitalize on the gains.
I think that also kind of highlights a theme in crypto where the anticipation of an event or the delivery of a product in the future is what causes the appreciation of the token far beyond the actual product itself. So I'll use an example, Caspa. Proof of work blockchain, pretty popular. It was rallying over the summer while the rest of the market was pulling back, and it was because anticipation of KRC20 tokens.
Interesting.
So people were speculating there's going to be a meme coin run on Caspa. They're creating these user-friendly wallets, and then KRC20 tokens came out, and Caspa's been basically going down only since.
Yeah.
And so it's the anticipation of the event that the market favors more than the actual event itself, whether it's a token release, a product release, or some kind of major roadmap item.
Interesting.
I guess it's just a systemic issue within the gambling propensities of the crypto market.
Yeah, that would happen a lot in NFTs as well.
Yeah.
Like people would always hype up the release of some product, and then as soon as you release that, they'd be like, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
And it was always just like, like looking for like what's next on the roadmap as opposed to, the actual delivery of some product, even if it works great. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of NFTs, there was like the NFTs would come out, the roadmap would come out, they'd announce a token, the NFT floor price would rise until the token comes out. You'd get your airdrop, the token price would plummet because everyone's cheating, the floor price of the NFTs would come out. It's like, man, how the fuck do we save this?
It's like we're just so used to it. Like everyone knows that as soon as like the abstract airdrop comes out for like the pudgies, that they'll probably once again dump like another 20%, but it's okay because you're hoping that the token is gonna make up for that value.
Crypto is like an ADD market on fucking steroids, where it's just a conveyor belt of dopamine. You eat your plate, and before you're done, you're looking up, what's next? What's the next bag? What's the next move? I had my dinner, I want my dessert.
Oh yeah, that's a good analogy.
So we did want to go a little bit more depth into Hey Anon, because when we last talked about it on the podcast, or was it the newsletter?
No, it was the podcast, man. Yeah, it was like on December 29th.
December 29th, Hey Anon was trading at what? I think you said $1.20?
$1.20.
And at the time of recording, shortly before going live, it did hit $17.
Yeah.
Absolute banger of a play coming from Daniel Sesta. And the market cap now, I think, is quite a bit higher. I think it's sitting just shy of around $200 million.
It's around there.
There are some discrepancies with like the market cap and on-chain information, because Hey Anon is a multi-chain token. It's available on Base, it's available on Solana, and it is available on Sonic. And because of that, they are using the layer 0 infrastructure. And I think layer 0 like kind of fumbled the bag with the token metadata, because anytime you pull it up on Dex Screener, I was looking at it this morning. When you looked at the Solana version of the token, it was saying the FDV was 25 million and the circulating market cap was 165 million. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. And so if you are looking into Hey Anon, just take those kinds of on-chain metrics with a grain of salt, because layer 0, this is like the opposite of a shout out for them. They fumbled the bag. Yeah.
Also a Vancouver-based company.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're based out here. Actually, I knew the CEO from years ago. Yeah,
DM him on Twitter.
I should.
I demand that you fix this.
Yeah, fix this right now.
Yeah. That's a whole new definition of working for your bags.
So if you want to actually find like the real price and like market cap of Anon, you can head to CoinGecko.
Yeah, CoinGecko has the updated information, but of course there are some discrepancies when you look on chain.
It was incredibly clever that they decided to make it a cross-chain coin though, because I looked at on CoinGecko, and most of the volume actually comes on Solana, and this is a Sonic native coin. So that's like, pretty impressive in my opinion.
I wish they left it on Sonic for longer so I had more time to accumulate.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they made it multi-chain, that was a very big turning point in the overall movement of the price action. Because as soon as you opened it up to the Solana degens, they're like, oh shit, we're gonna ape this.
They're like, oh, DeFi?
I haven't heard of this before.
Yeah. Oh, he did such a good job at branding and marketing that. Because he was like the first guy to say, him and Andre like tweet out DeFi, and then all of a sudden it was like, this is a thing.
Yeah. I've been talking to Daniel quite a bit. If you didn't know, he did come on my stream the other day for a 2-hour-long interview.
That was brilliant. Really good.
It was an awesome session. If you haven't seen it already, you can find it on my Twitter at DeFiDaddy_. 2-hour-long session with Daniel Sesta. It was eye-opening. Mm-hmm. He peeled back the layers, completely transparent, what went wrong with Time Wonderland, the pitfalls, how he kind of got targeted by Three Arrows Capital, Alameda Research, Do Kwon, SBF, etc. And honestly, he was way more transparent than I expected. He peeled everything back. He's like, yeah, the weak point in the armor was seafood. They leveraged that against us. They added FTX perps for Time Wonderland and just shorted this shit to zero. I stayed up for 72 hours just clipping money in. It didn't work, and now here we are. But it seems like Hey Anon, WogMe, and the third piece of the ecosystem is a new play-to-earn game yet to be released called Apes.Win. He's describing this as his comeback arc. He's got his Thanos gauntlet, he's put in all the Infinity Stones, and he is determined to make a new narrative.
Yeah, it really does seem like this is his like magnum opus. He's reiterating on all of his past mistakes and just creating, I guess, the ultimate DeFi protocol. It's really cool.
Yeah, the interview was really eye-opening in terms of like, I knew he was smart, but like he is such a high-level thinker. I was on the back foot just like trying to keep up with them. It was a very intellectually engaging conversation because like there's levels to the game.
Oh yeah.
And like he's at the top. He's at the top in terms of what he's capable
when you're dealing with those guys and you have those guys targeting you, I mean, you gotta be right.
Right? So, I mean, obviously there's a bias here because we are both Anon holders. We got in early. So obviously we're, for lack of a better word, glazing him because we have a financial interest to do so. But I think it's very insightful to see what he addresses as the total market in front of him and how he plans on capturing it.
Yeah.
I guess the key takeaway here is we are Anon bulls. We are biased towards Anon. We're biased towards Daniel Sesta, but we're kind of viewing his comeback arc, his revenge arc in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you can go into more details on Apes.Win because you seem to grasp it really well, and I was just a little bit confused with how it functions.
Yeah, so Apes.Win is going to be a pump.fun competitor.
Okay.
It's going to be a pump.fun competitor, but you could kind of imagine it with a limited bottleneck. Instead of people making 20,000 tokens a day, there's essentially going to be 1 token per week.
Wow.
Right? Greatly reduced throughput. And the fun thing that I like about Apes.Win is that it's going to be free to play. It's going to require no upfront capital to get started. You can use your own money if you want, but essentially every day that you use the app, you're going to open a loot box. Inside that loot box is going to give you a voting power as well as some coins. You can use those coins to buy different projects in the Apes.Win ecosystem. Anyone can make a project, but only 1 per week is going to get bonded to Sonic.
Interesting.
And the nuance there is that the community decides which projects are going to get bonded. So if there's a really popular one, it's a funny meme, maybe it's a Daniel Sesta meme. I got to imagine the first one's got to be about Daniel Sesta.
It's going to be his dog.
Yeah, it's going to be a frog, a dog, something like that. There's got to be some kind of move there. But the community decides which ones get bonded, and there's going to be a limited bottleneck of 1 per week. So the way that he described it is that it's giving people a chance.
Yes.
Giving people a chance to make it out of the trenches. No skin in the game required other than playing on this platform. So I think that in itself is really liberating for the average investor because pump.fun, like majority of people lose money. There is
Yeah.
a lot of compelling Dune Analytics statistics about how much money is actually lost in pumped up fund trenches.
Yeah.
And it is substantial. It's because people are chasing a dream.
Mhm.
But apes.win is an opportunity to give people the tools to chase the dream.
Absolutely. I've met countless people who have turned like $100 into like life-changing portfolios. And it seems like apes.win could be that one opportunity where it's like, you just kind of gotta get lucky, keep on playing it. It costs no money. And that could really just like snowball into a lot of money really fast.
Exactly. And so the last part here that's kind of the most exciting for the orientation of the apes.win platform is when it gets bonded to Sonic, it's instantly going to have between $100,000 and $500,000 in liquidity.
Holy.
Instantly.
Where's the liquidity come from?
The Sonic Foundation, which in
Yeah.
itself is very bullish.
Yeah.
And also, I think we talked about this last episode, the reward or the network transaction fee incentive that they're giving back to developers.
Yeah.
So just to catch you guys up here, the Sonic Foundation has made it so 90% of network fees from a decentralized application or a token are going back to the developers.
Yeah.
And so that is where the liquidity is coming from.
Cool.
So all of the network fees associated with the ApeSwim platform, with the WAGMI ecosystem, are going to go towards fueling the liquidity for these new launches.
That's really cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Because they've basically created like a self-sustaining money distribution system for their community.
Good guy, Daniel.
Good guy Daniel, the revenge arc. It's hard not to like him when you kind of view his viewpoint on why he's building what he's building. The other nuance here is that all of these tokens are going to be multi-chain by default.
Cool.
As soon as they launch, there's going to be liquidity on Sonic, Solana, and Base.
Wow.
So you're immediately engaging all of these other communities and kind of trying to onboard them into the Sonic ecosystem.
Yeah.
So apparently, the product is ready, but they're waiting until the Sonic token gets some momentum itself in order to release it.
Fair enough. I feel like the 16th could be the big turnaround for that when you get Binance finally migrating FTM to Sonic.
I agree. Some of the exchange migrations have started happening, but the rollout is happening over due time as people move from the FTM token to the Sonic token. The last nuance here is when you're playing apes.win, all of these transactions are on chain, which means you qualify for the $400 million Sonic airdrop that's happening in 4 months' time.
Mm-hmm.
So like just by default, you're making money because you are going to qualify for that airdrop. So like base case, let's say you pick all of the wrong tokens, you're still going to get the Sonic airdrop. The case above that, you pick the right token.
Yeah.
You're going to get fucking paid. Like it's a lose-lose situation. And what I think is particularly compelling is they've aligned the incentives of the community with the KOLs, with the network, with the protocol itself. And it's very rare in crypto that you get all incentives aligned.
Yeah, there's going to be a referral scheme along with this, right?
Yeah, there will definitely be a referral scheme. I've heard it's going to be tranched like grass.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
the upside down triangle.
Yeah. So people will be incentivized to share this with their friends and hopefully make money together.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they will be making money together because it's a win-win-win. Really rare in the world of crypto. So bullish on Hey Anon, bullish on ApeSwin, bullish on the Sonic ecosystem at large. And that's kind of something that we've both been talking about is people don't know this yet, but they're going to be on Sonic eventually this cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. This price of Sonic, unfortunately, has taken a bit of a tumble in past weeks. I think it's down to like 70 cents, but it did peak at like $1.50 only like 3 weeks ago. So I think people are like, I don't think everyone understands that, FTM isn't just like disappearing, that it's migrating and it's actually getting an upgrade at the same time, with faster TPS and the new developer incentives. And I think as soon as like people kind of understand and like see Sonic trading on these new exchanges, the price should pick up. And
I think the migration process was poorly executed.
you think so?
Because even Binance said they were delisting Phantom.
That was horrible.
That was terrible. It caused
Yeah,
Phantom
yeah.
to go down like 15%, and all they had to say was, instead of delisting, we're migrating.
Yes. Yeah.
Even Andre Kronia posted a meme about it, like that group meme where he's like pointing at the whiteboard. Like, man, Binance, if you're listening to this, which you're definitely not, you dropped the ball.
Yeah. If they'd coordinated it where there were like multiple centralized exchanges, like they're on the exact same day, that could have been really powerful. But you're right. It's been such a slow kind of rollout. And also, there's another project called Sonic SVM on Solana, which have taken the ticker Sonic, and so it's really confusing. People are conflating the two. I've seen it on Twitter already. And if you type in Sonic on these exchanges, obviously you're going to buy the wrong coin.
Right. That confusion, I think, is deliberate. I'm pretty sure Andre and Anatoly have beef. Like, I'm fairly certain they actually have beef, because there's Phantom, like the Phantom web wallet for Solana has the same name as the Phantom token, and then the Sonic SVM layer 2 was announced after they had announced the new Sonic network. So, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. There definitely appears to be some kind of deliberate branding decisions made between the Sonic Foundation and the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah, and that Sonic SVM project seems like kind of dog shit, if you ask me.
Really? I mean, I haven't looked too much into it. What's going on?
They had some like TikTok game where like you could...
Is it like a tap to earn?
Yeah, something like that, to like earn points, and some like referral scheme. But it's a layer 2 for like blockchain gaming or something like that. But I mean, like, Tolly has repeatedly said over and over again that like they don't need like layer 2s for Solana. Like,
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like the modular versus monolithic debate.
Yeah.
ETH is a modular blockchain. It's designed to have layer 2s built on top of and abstracted between. Solana is a centralized network, but it's just one giant fucking network. It's monolithic. It's like you're building your own car versus you go buy a Ferrari. Yeah. Right? Like, do you want to buy all the nice parts and combine it yourself, or do you just want to go to a Lambo dealership and buy the fastest thing you can get your hands on? That's kind of the nuance there. Also, speaking of Solana, the Fire Dancer update is being pushed to testnet.
Interesting.
Did you hear about that?
No, I did not hear about this. That's
radar.
Cool. That's cool.
Fire Dancer is a major validator update for the Solana ecosystem that will turn Solana into the highest throughput payment rail on planet Earth, even outside of crypto, talking about like Visa, MasterCard, Amex, etc. Solana will be the single largest payment network on planet Earth.
And this is being developed by Jump, correctly?
Right, that Jump. Yeah. So I think Jump is they're a venture capital firm, but they're also on the infrastructure side. So I think they make select investments, and when they make those investments, they are very hands-on with supporting the infrastructure, ensuring product success, and kind of working for their bags, so to speak.
Yeah, I was just a bit confused by that, because I know that Jump did like unwind a lot of their, like a major portion of their crypto investments like a couple months ago. August
5th, the day that Bank of Japan carry trade drama was happening, they were the ones that sent ETH to like $2,900 because they got margin call.
I see.
Yeah. So regardless, keep your eyes out for the Fire Dancer update for Solana. There's big things coming. I love Sonic. I love Solana. I think those are two pop-in blockchains for the upcoming golden era. Another key concept that we kind of talked about when we were discussing DeFi was the idea of abstraction. And that's kind of the concept of allowing people to use crypto to access the technology, but not really have that granular specific information required by like hardcore users like you and I. Like when we use Uniswap, for example, we know that you have to find the contract address, you have to paste it in the field, you got to make sure it's the right one, you got to confirm the transaction, make sure you have gas. Like there's a lot of pain points with where the technology is currently. And the idea of abstraction is removing all of those pain points and allowing users to use the technology, but not have the headache.
Yeah.
And so that idea of abstraction is kind of what's going to lower the barrier of entry for people to come into the space. And there's a specific new blockchain called Abstract. It's a layer 2. It's coming out. And you may have heard of the CEO/founder, Luca Netz.
Yeah, infamously the owner of Pudgy Penguins. And just owning a Pudgy or an Azuki is going to get you entitled to like part of that airdrop, as well as Pengu tokens. It's another way you can get access to it. People are hyping this up to be like a major, Ethereum L2.
Yeah, I mean, it's another L2 if we need more. But regardless, you can bridge to it. You said from Sepolia, right?
Yeah, you can bridge to it on the Sepolia testnet. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot to do on the actual testnet just yet, but I'm sure that's also going to just count towards the future airdrop, which I believe is coming out end of January, so it's quite soon.
End of January. So own a Pudgy. That's probably outside most people's budget. Own Pudgy tokens. That might get you a little bit of a bag. Yeah. But I think the idea is with this abstract blockchain is to offer a suite of services. So for example, streaming, where you have that community engagement. People are able to engage in the ecosystem, but not really realize they're using the crypto technology. So for example, I heard this. There's a little birdie that whispered it to me. is that the streaming platform offered in the abstract ecosystem, the tipping currency is going to be Pengu.
Oh, very cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like probably going to be an on-ramp and an off-ramp with credit card, for example, but the infrastructure side that users may not know about would be the Pengu token, which is obviously SPL or an abstract version of it. And so I think Luca Netz is an innovator. I mean, he bought the Pudgy Penguins collection, I think it was for like $90,000, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. 90,900?
I think he bought it for 300 ETH.
300 ETH.
I think that's what he bought it for. Yeah.
Dude, that was like the floor price of like 15 Pudgies a couple weeks ago.
I mean, back then it was like one ETH per Pudgy or something like that.
Oh my god.
But man, he's
cooked.
Yeah, he's absolutely like rolled that into a $1 billion empire, which is incredible.
I still do hold some resentment for when he farmed the snipers with the Pengu launch. I do hold that deep in my heart. But what I will say is there's a bit of an opportunity in front of us in terms of farming the abstract airdrop, because there will be a large airdrop. And I think they've done a really good job engaging with their community, communicating that intent. And their goal is to kind of provide the infrastructure to allow people to use crypto, but not really know they're using crypto, which in itself I think is very valuable.
Yeah, that's really interesting for the Pengu token, which is already like a 2.8 billion or something like that. But it's going to add some utility to it, so it's not just a meme coin. I think people were kind of waiting for what that would be, and hopefully that's just the start. Use it as a tipping currency on the abstract blockchain. I'll probably try to do a bit of streaming on it because I think it'll probably be very lucrative when it first starts out. I know Luca Netz did go on like a podcast recently, and he said like, yeah, it's like for the top streamers are going to be making millions. So I assume there's a lot of like
we could even live stream one of these podcasts.
And we could, yeah.
On the abstract ecosystem streaming app.
Yeah.
Try and farm it.
Maybe.
If it's lucrative, you'll catch me there. I definitely got to try and reserve the DeFi Daddy handle.
Yeah, I'm assuming you'll be like get abstract tokens for streaming on the platform as well as like tips.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of like community to creator engagement as well as the creator incentives on themselves, because we both know this. Crypto creators are inherently lazy until you start throwing money at them, and then they move really quickly.
Oh yeah.
It's that incentive dilemma that we've been talking about, aligning the incentives of the creator, the foundation, the community. Very challenging to do.
We'll see if they can get that flywheel working though, because it does kind of remind me of like last cycle where there was a lot of these like, run to earn or walk to earn, where it's just like you get a bunch of these tokens, but then it only works if more and more investors are coming in and buying these tokens.
Yeah, I think you just described a Ponzi scheme.
Is that what that's like?
I agree. For example, step in last cycle.
Step in.
move to earn, and you can sell your tokens as long as someone is buying them.
Yeah.
So I think those tokens peaked at about $8 each, and I think they're currently trading below half a penny.
That sounds about right.
Ran out of buyers. It's that you got to grease the flywheel and hope you're not the last person out the door.
For a little while, it was very profitable to go for a walk, though.
Exactly, bro. I have good memories of going for walks outside, touching grass, and then cashing in my USDC. Fond memories.
Yeah. So hopefully Abstract can kind of tie this together where it makes sense.
There must be some kind of grandiose vision in play that we're not aware of. But regardless, I think we'll wind down the episode here. Thank you so much for tuning into the third episode of Exit Liquidity. Hopefully you found some alpha. Maybe you learned something, so you'll share it with a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for listening in. This is DeFi Senpai.
DeFi Daddy, signing out.
Peace.